Are you trying to dominate your fantasy football league? Do you want so many championship rings it's impossible to sign autographs? Well, crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of bourbon, and settle in, because you've come to the right place. Welcome to Hammercast.
Welcome to another edition of the Dynasty debate at the Hammercast Network. Today, I got my buddy John on. John, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so today we are talking about the 2021 rookie running back class, and what we're really actually focusing on is we're going to be focusing on the sleepers of the class, and sleepers can mean a lot of different things. So when we're going to be looking at kind of, I think, guys that will do better than their current rookie ADP in dynasty leagues, guys that we think have a shot based on talent, and in this running back class is not the strongest. It's one of the probably the weakest part of this class, to be honest. So some guys are going to definitely pop out of there, and what guys are there? So what we're going to take a look at is the 2021 class running back sleepers. We're going to be looking at these guys, and obviously one of my favorite guys here is Gainwell. The first guy is Kenneth Gainwell. He's 5'11", 191, and that. The weight thing is we'll probably talk about is the big issue. I'm hoping he can get in that 200 range, and we'll talk about that. But in college, he basically redshirted and he played 1 year. He had 235 attempts, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. And I think the key thing for him in PPR formats is his 57 receptions, 662 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I absolutely love Gainwell. I know that John does too. And when we talk about sleepers, it's kind of interesting because I don't think Gainwell is necessarily a sleeper like John will talk about. He's currently going about the 202, 201, 202, 203. He's running back 4 off the board right now in rookie draft. So, John, what do you like about Gainwell?
Yeah, so first of all, I will say Gainwell is my locked and loaded running back 4 in this class. To me, there's a huge drop off of after Gainwell, and you look at him. I mean, look, we've had a lot of good Memphis running backs come out in recent years, and to me, Gainwell is the best one in my recent memory, anyway. Right, low center of body. He's got a thick body, thick build, and I like you were mentioning the size. I think he's built to add a little bit more weight. You're absolutely right. He should be 200, 210. I think that's probably where he's going to play at in the NFL. But I have no problem with that. Explosive as hell, has wide receiver level pass catching. He's used as a wide receiver a lot in this offense, and I think his pass catching is awesome, as you mentioned with PPR. It was a very college-y scheme, so maybe scouts might have an issue with that. I'm not really worried about it. At the end of the day, you look at the running back position, you're looking for explosiveness, you're looking for shiftiness, you're looking for a guy who can churn out tough yards, low center of gravity, and a good pass catcher. He has all of that in spades. I'm really excited about this guy at the next level.
Yeah, Gainwell is one of those guys I think is a clear-cut running back. I think he can be a 3-down running back. I know a lot of guys don't think that, but I do. When I actually wrote a deep dive on Gainwell, that's how much I really like him. I love his vision and footwork. When you watch him, he has a quick first step. He knows how to read blocks. And I think that's one big thing that a lot of guys come from college and NFL, they struggle with. He doesn't have wasted moments. He doesn't dance around. He hits that hole and goes. He explodes through there. He has an open field. He's elusive. I love his short area lateral quickness, which I think is really underrated in running backs, and his speed. Watch his game against Navy and some of these guys that he just takes off. He's consistently stays low. I like how you mentioned he's low to the ground is like, he does have a low center of gravity, but he can explode through that line. And I absolutely love that. And he had 38 rushes this last year 2 years ago that accounted for more than 10 yards, and 24 rushes that accounted for more than 15 yards. So he saw a breakaway percentage of over 50%. To me, that's a playmaker. That's a dude that you're going to want in that roster, and I would love for him to go to these different spots. Acceleration and contact balance for me is key. Receiving ability, I think, what sets him apart, because I think he's a PPR dream, but also he can play receiver. And the way he can kind of contort his body, he actually does pretty well at just he had 51 catches, 610 yards, and 3 touchdowns. They split him out. He's versatile. I think he's like Austin Eckler. Like, that's kind of my comp for him. I like the Austin Eckler comp. I know he needs to get a little bit more weight on him. I think the size is his weakness, maybe pass blocking. I think he does struggle there a little bit. Competition and reps is going to be the big one because he opted out. But I think Gainwell is the dude. He's really in that third tier, but I don't hate it being my running back 3 either. Like, I could see him being my running back 3. And if landing spot, let's say he goes to Arizona, let's say he goes to New York, those kind of places, I absolutely love those spots for him.
Yes. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree.
Even the Dolphins. What do you think about the Dolphins? Because I actually like that spot for him too.
Yeah, I would love him at the Dolphins, and where I'm thinking he will go in the NFL draft, I would love that value as well. Yeah, I absolutely agree. You said 3 down back. Couldn't agree more. I want him as a 3 down back. To me, this is the cutoff. Like my first 4 guys, we know the big 2, then Javonte Williams and Kenneth Gainwell. These first 4 guys, I look at them all as 3 down backs that can take over and be RB1 in the NFL. And I expect it. I'll put it that way. I expect that from these 4 guys. I expect that from Kenneth Gainwell. He goes to the right situation, because that's everything for the running back position. I mean, that is what it is. He goes to the right situation. He will be a fantasy darling, I feel like, for the next couple of years for sure.
And he'll be a steal. And I think he will be a steal.
Absolutely.
Our next guy, so we're going to go through 4. So there was Gainwell. Our next guy is Larry Rountree III, Missouri guy. He's been there for 4 years. He was a 4-year starter in the SEC at Missouri, 5'10", 210. So I like his profile. College stats, 747 attempts. He had over 3,700 yards rushing and 40 touchdowns. He was there forever. And he's someone that you talk about competition, where he played in the SEC. He showed that he could do it. He had 47 receptions, 289 yards, and 0 touchdowns receiving. So I will say the receiving aspect of it is a concern. That is one area that we'll probably talk about that concerns me a little bit. Right now, his ADP, where he is going, he's running back 14 in rookie draft. So that puts him in the 4th round. So when we're talking about sleeper, this is definitely one of those sleepers. And he's someone that is really going up higher on my board as I watch him. What do you think of Larry?
Yeah, look, first of all, Larry is one of those guys that you kind of you told me about, because he was not on my radar, and he is already, like, he flew up my board. He's going to be in my top 6 or 7, I would say. I don't think he falls any farther out of there. You love the explosiveness, you love the slipperiness. Runs with pretty good power. It's not amazing, but it's good enough. And like you mentioned pass catching. I didn't know the stats offhand, like you mentioned. I don't think he was utilized in the pass game enough from the games that I watched. I actually consider him a very fluid pass catcher. Just when you see him catch the ball, his ability to catch the ball and then just immediately be going upfield, very fluid, very smooth. I'm actually very excited about his ability in the passing game at the next level. I think if he gets into a system that will utilize that part of his game, I'm excited about that. Consider him a very slippery runner. You mentioned lateral quickness. I think he has good lateral quickness. Maybe that might be the part of his game where I look at him like, okay, that part's what's keeping him away from being in the Kenneth Gainwell conversation for me.
Yeah.
Like that's what's keeping him out of that top end prospect. And I'm just talking prospect for a second. But yeah, I love a lot of things about him. I think this is another guy, get him in the right situation. I could see him being utilized very, very well at the next level.
Yeah, when you watch him, I think the thing that I see about him, he's not the perfect prospect, and he's not going to be a burner by any means. He's not one of these guys that's going to go out of here. But you watch here, like, he's got a good lateral elusive quickness first step. And when you see that, I like what he can do. He can make guys miss. I think that he shows a good enough burst at the line of scrimmage. So when you're watching him, when he hits that hole, it's a pretty good burst. It's not perfect. Yeah. He's not going to be someone that's going to break 20, 30-yard runs every time. But right there, he reads his blocks well. You can see him kind of reading his blocks, get into that elusive speed. And he's not going to be someone that absolutely, wows us every time. But in this class, if you can – I really think this. When I've been doing rookie mocks and I'm looking at rookie mocks and doing these things, if you don't get a running back over those first 4, the wide receivers and tight ends are so talented in that 2nd and 3rd round. I don't know if you really want to reach on one of those running backs in that mid-tier, because the guy like Rountree or a couple of these other guys that we're going to talk about, I think are capable of running backs. So for me, when I'm looking at sleepers, he's someone that I'm saying, okay, if I miss out on those top 4, he's someone I'm willing to give a shot in that 4th round, just based on his profile, what he did at Missouri. And I think that he's kind of going under the radar a lot. So I like him and where he's being drafted. And I think that in a 4th round rookie shot, hey, it's better than like DJ Dallas, who went to Seattle last year. Like, guys like that, I think Rountree is better.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And like you mentioned, that's one thing that I forgot to mention. His long speed isn't there. I mean, you're absolutely right. But as you said, he does have really good burst. And in the NFL level, I don't think that, like, not having that, be able to break off a 50-yard run. Yeah, he doesn't have that. I don't think he'll ever be doing that at the NFL level. But that's not a killer, just because in the NFL level, it's about 5 to 10-yard explosive plays. And I think he's going to be really good in that aspect. Again, but that is another piece of the puzzle that keeps him away from that, like, top-end prospect.
Yeah, I think you're getting a guy that's going to do short down yardage. Maybe he'll break away have a few touchdowns. But what I think that his value exceeds where he's getting drafted right now.
For
so
sure.
He's a guy to look at. Our next guy is a guy that John brought up, and I'd love to hear what he says about him. And I think he's an interesting prospect, and that's Pooka Williams from Kansas. Pooka, 5'10", 170. College stats. He had a weird college year, some maturity issues, but 415 attempts, 2,300 yards, just over 12 touchdowns. He did show some capabilities in the passing game, 66 receptions, 534 yards, and 4 touchdowns. What do you think about this kid?
Yeah, look, so this is a project guy for me. I get it. It's not perfect right now. I would like to add a little bit more to his frame. He's kind of, skinnier and smaller, but, he does have, I think, that breakaway speed that you want to see. I think he is very good in the passing game. I love his explosiveness. He's a very slippery runner, and that's like a tough thing to explain. But it's just like, there's a lot of times where it's like, man, he made that guy miss. I don't know exactly how he did it. The guy lined up on him pretty well, like right there, that exact play. Like, why wasn't he brought down at the 3 or 4 yard line? Stuff like that I get excited about. I'm a big fan of Pooka. I'm a big fan of the potential, right? I get that it's not all there in college, and I had heard some of the concerns, but overall, I see a guy who I do think is being undervalued because I see the explosiveness. I see the athletic potential. I'd like a little bit more from size. There's certainly some issues there, but overall, he's an exciting prospect to me that I think is being undervalued and kind of looked over right now.
Yeah, I think the size thing, yes. He played at one of the worst schools in college football in Kansas the last couple of years of Pooka, and he made him competitive, right, when we saw that. I love that sidestep. You see that sidestep on the film?
You got that.
I love the sidestep quickness, and he's pretty reactionary. He can see things. He's competitive, too. So a guy for his size, you want to see that competitive nature. He puts his head down. He runs through there. I think he has pretty good vision. When I'm looking at what he can do, it's his strength that I think kind of worries me the most. Can he shed these blocks? Can he be a third down back? Can he basically get in there and block? And I think the perfect situation for him is like a running back 3 kind of committee-ish, kind of what can you do, maybe fill some roles, adapt, get a little stronger. But he is a project. I'm glad you brought that up. As far as his ADP goes, Pooka's going to basically in that same – he's going right after Rountree in the 4th round. So he's essentially – right now he's running back 15. Hey, again, 4th round shot. If you have some extra force, depending on draft capital, where is he going to go? I think someone will take a shot on him, but he's never going to be someone that is that is probably a 3-down back workhorse guy. But he can fill some roles, and he might be able to be that fill-in, throw-in. Hey, how can we get it? If he can get up to like 185, that would be great. I would love to see him at that size. But Pooka's an interesting prospect. I like what he can do. Maybe he can be a guy kind of receiving back. I'm a little less high on him than some just because of that size. Maturity issues scare me. Maturity issues always scare me. But I understand where you're coming from with that. I think Pooka's a good little sleeper guy.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. My 2 biggest concerns are his pass protection was absolutely awful, and yeah, he doesn't run with power. He's not going to run through anybody. That's not his game at all. So absolutely fair points, but like you said, project guy who I definitely think is worth a shot in that 4th round range.
But he's got that chip. So when you see him, he was one of the best players in high school in Louisiana football history. That guy was a stud.
Oh, yeah.
And then he had some issues, and then he got transfer camp, did those things. But he is that good, and he is competitive. I love the guys with a chip on their shoulder, but they also can't be dumb about it. And I think that hopefully he's learned from that, right? That's good. What we're all hoping. Our last guy here, and this has been a darling for some guys out there. And when we talk about him, we're talking about Michael Carter, and he's going to be around that 200-pound range, 5'8". Him and Javonte Williams have kind of slip roles here. He actually had a really good, productive college career. He's a 4-year player at North Carolina, so some people would be weirded out about that, my ageist and my breakout guys and all those guys, my analytic guys. But 514 carries. He got a lot of usage on him, 3,400 yards, 22 touchdowns. He did pretty well in his receiving game, 82 receptions, 656 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He currently has an ADP, so his is a little higher because I think people are a little bit on him. So he's running back 7 right now, and his ADP is about 20. So he's about going in the middle of the 2nd round. You're looking at 209, 210, somewhere around there with Michael Carter. Again, I like his weight where he's at. I do. His size will vary and it'll be there. But what do you think of Michael?
Yeah, so I was actually a little bit surprised because after I put the list together, I went back and looked to see like where's he being mocked, like things like that. I saw him as a guy who's like a fourth, fifth round draft pick, NFL draft pick, and that I think like he just feels like one of those guys that I think could get drafted late and end up being a starter, end up finding himself in a position where he becomes a 3-down back. That's why I put him on this list because I do see that potential from him. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize like I saw a mock where he goes in the 3rd round. I don't see that. Like there's certainly some issues. He doesn't have like the explosiveness, like that next level explosiveness that you want from like a top end running back. So it's nothing like that. But there's a lot to like about this guy, right? He's a good all around player. I think that's like the best way to say it. Like there's nothing that like scares me about him. He's has good vision, good agility, good short area quickness, not great, has pretty good speed, runs with good pad level and balance at times, although sometimes it does get a little dicey there. Runs with good patience, is a good pass catcher overall. Everything about him I like. There's not like one thing that I go, oh shit, that's what he's going to do in the NFL. But I like everything about him, and I certainly see his potential at the NFL level, and that's why I wanted to put him on this list.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Michael. I think he's a very, very good prospect. He's a very average. He's going to do a lot of good things for you out there. He's got pretty good elusiveness. I like his receiving ability, actually. And you'll see him here. He takes a shot, holds onto the ball. I like that about him. I think that he's got pretty good elusiveness, pretty good vision. I think that he's also a pretty good decision maker where he tries to read his blocks, what he comes into. I love how he makes his cuts. He's pretty patient. He's decisive. Hey, and he goes. I don't see the athleticism as much. So when I watch him run, it's more of a prodding type of guy. But he could be that 1B back. He could be that guy that we talk about as like, hey, 1A, 1B, he's that committee back. I think that he fit very well in like a zone rushing scheme. So when I watch him play, he's a guy that's going to fit very well there because he can use his elusiveness, he can use his vision, he can use his cutting and everything like that. I actually saw him get mocked to the Steelers, and that would be amazing. I think if the Steelers don't take anybody else and they bring him in and they have that hodgepodge of McFarland and Snell, Snell's not good guys, and then you're going to get Michael Carter. I think Michael Carter could elude out of that, right? Come out of that and be that guy. I think it's all about draft capital, like you said. If he goes in the 3rd round, he's going to go higher for me because that draft capital matters to me. If he slips to the 4th, 5th, or 4th, 5th-ish in that area, I think I'm a little bit more nervous. But he's a 2-back guy that I could see a high ceiling being kind of a lower end running back where you're like, hey, I can plug him and go. But I think he's going to be a great complementary option. I think Carter's the guy that we're going to be talking about, Michael Carter from North Carolina. He'll be the guy that we talk about as being kind of like, oh, hey, you have him again? Oh, yeah, he's on my roster. Oh, he's still fitting there. Oh, yeah, he's my plug guy. Like, he's my bye-week guy. And he's going to be a guy in the league that will last, right? Like, I don't necessarily say he's going to be there. But I love that about Michael Carter. And especially where he's going, if he's the guy that I'm taking a risk on in the 2nd. So if I'm going to take a wide receiver in the 1st or a quarterback, and let's say I'm pretty shored up, I don't mind taking Michael Carter in that 2nd. To just put in perspective, he's basically going with Gainwell. And then when you look at kind of the other running backs there, I want him over Hubbard. I'm staying away from Hubbard. I'm not a Hubbard guy. So Carter for me is the risk. Carter for me is the guy I'd rather take the risk on. I'd rather have him over Trey Sermon. But that's just my perspective. Ramondre Stevenson, I'd rather have Michael Carter.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I don't get the Hubbard stuff. I did a draft profile on him not too long ago. You guys can check it out between the pylons. And I don't get it. I don't understand where the love. He had one awesome season, and that's great. But I just don't see the athletic profile really translating at a high level. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. All the other names you mentioned, obviously Kenneth Gainwell goes way ahead of Michael Carter for me. But after that, Michael Carter goes ahead of pretty much everybody else you said with, there's certain guys that you mentioned that I think maybe would be more valuable in the NFL, but not really fantasy guys like the Stevenson dude from Oklahoma. I see him being actually good in the NFL, but he's not a fantasy guy. I don't think. I think he's more of a anyway. That's beside the point. But yeah, no, I like everything you said, and you're absolutely right on the athletic profile. I mean, it's all good, but nothing is exciting, you know?
Yeah, he's that guy you're going to draft and you're going to be like, all right, I feel the need necessarily, but I'm okay with those guys. You need those guys on your roster. So those are our 4 guys. So just to kind of go through them again, we got Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis. Had a great profile. Running back you out there in Memphis. We got Tony Pollard. I mean, and this is the kid, for those of you that don't know, those of you that are kind of, I know some guys aren't degenerates like us where we watch this, but this is the reason why Antonio Gibson couldn't get on the field. Like, this is the guy. And people forget that because he opted out. And that's a legit thing because Gainwell has that confidence and he has that ability. And I absolutely love this guy. And he's getting slept on big time. Larry Rountree, Missouri. Love him. We just went through his highlights. If you're just checking in, I mean, you can see what he can do. I think he's a great 4th-round option. Pooka, great, another guy. I think a high upside, great 4th-round option. And then Carter's going in that 2nd round. And if I'm taking any running back in the 2nd round, Carter's my guy in that 2nd round. So those are our 4 kind of sleepers, guys that we really like. We appreciate you kind of checking it out. John, thanks for coming on.
Definitely.
And, again, if you watch this on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, tell us what you think. What do you think about these guys? Are we off the mark or what do we think there? So we appreciate you checking in for Hammercast, and we will check you guys on our next Dynasty debate.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to hammercast.com. Subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.